What's up, baby? Arthur Moats here, man. Time for some space talk, you know, solo streaming it up on a casual Sunday, man. Hope everybody is enjoying their weekend. It's been a lot going on over here, man. Let's see, we done had a little bit of a flood going on, man. Shout out to the rain in Pittsburgh. We also had big time sporting events, man. UFC 300 last night. Absolutely crazy. But more importantly, man, you know, today we got to talk a little bit about these top 30 visits, man, that's been happening with the squad. Because these names starting to pop up, man, we always talk about that correlation, right? Between draft picks, pro days, draft picks, top 30 visits, draft day, or draft picks, and some type of combine visit, man. So, like I said, definitely like that. Mel Kiper dropped a new mock draft as well, so we're gonna react to that, man. Got an interesting name that he has mocked to us in the first. And of course, before we get up out of here, man, I gotta tap in and react to some of your mock drafts, man, because y'all have been doing a awesome job sending those in, man. For those that have not participated in sending mocks or they still want to get one in, send it to moatswinners@gmail.com. Once again, moatswinners@gmail.com. Also, if we don't get a chance to talk about your, mocks, whether it's on the solo stream like today, or even throughout the week when it's me and Deke and stuff like that, also check the website, arthurmoats.com. We do a great job in terms of just keeping those mocks updated as well, man. A lot of the ones y'all send in that don't get onto the show, they ultimately get onto the website as well, man. So, like I said, multiple places where y'all can check your work. And I think, man, we're going to do something special again this year, man. In terms of who gets the highest probability, or whoever has the highest success rate with their mock draft compared to what the Steelers actually draft, man. Might have to do something a little cool for y'all as well, man. All right, but with that being the case, man, we're gonna start it like how we always do. Go ahead and drop it in the comment section where you're tuning in from, and of course I give you that big boy shout out to start today's show. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button one time for the culture, baby. Let's see who we got in here, man. Yeah, Zach Strait. I was definitely watching them fights, man. I feel like I was watching UFC fights from 6 p.m. to about midnight. Everybody was getting whooped. It was amazing. Shout out to that UFC 300 card, man. Yeah, whether we talking the early prelims, the regular prelims, the main card, across the war fire. Shout out to Max Holloway. Holy smokes, electric. And talk Potet. Alex Pereira, holy smokes, man. I say let him fight 2 weeks from now, man, in the heavyweight. I don't even care. Let him go at it. All right. Shout out to Mike Hood. I see you in the building this morning. Lamont Curry, yeah, man. Appreciate you, acknowledging the Bruce Lee shirt. What they say? You gotta be like Walter. Love this Bruce Lee Tito, man. Shout out. And I also see that you're tuning in from Trenton, South Carolina as well. Shout out to South Carolina, home of the women's college basketball national champs, South Carolina Gamecocks, Don Staley and company. Rod Dollars in the building at 330 Youngstown, Ohio, Southside, baby. Let's get it. Dominique Scott, I see you in Lansing, Michigan. That 512. Big time love for you over there. And Reen Ramirez, all the way out in Orange County, Anaheim, California. So it's not too early over there today. Sometimes when we're in these early morning streams or midday streams, I'm thinking of you out there on the west side. All right, thinking of you. What up, Jalen Johnson? Salute you. And No Am in the 613 Ottawa, Canada says, shout out my dog from Ottawa, Akeem Minnesota. 2025 NFL draft. All right, Akeem Minnesota in next year's draft class, man. Make sure we tap in and check him out. No Am, I like it, baby. I like it. Big Banks 904. I see you in that Memphis 10 in the building, 10 toes in the building. Let's get it to the cake. But like I said, man, because we do got plenty of stuff that we're going to discuss today, man. Let's get this thing rolling. So, as I say, get this thing rolling, I'm sipping on the tea over here, feeling groovy. Shoot, got the Masters going on, man. Got UFL in the background, man. All right. But in terms of the top 30 visits, man, we've been keeping track of who's been coming in. And when we talk about these top 30 visits, we know why they're significant, because you only get 30 of them prior to the draft starting. And typically the guys that are being brought in, they, have a higher chance of being drafted. We are extra curious about them in some way, shape, or form. But there is valuable information when we're talking about the names or just some of the players that are, coming on visits. So recently, this past weekend, and shout out to Steelers Depot, man, they do an awesome job of keeping all this stuff in terms of just tracking it. But over the weekend, man, April 12th, we did have 3 additional players come in for their top 30 visits. Now, I'm really excited because the first name is obviously Cooper DeJean, the versatile DB out of Iowa. He was obviously in, and then we also brought in 2 local guys in terms of West Virginia products. Zach Frazier, the center, who, like I said, man, a lot of us have been talking about him in that second round, potentially mocking him to us. And then also a cornerback out of West Virginia, Benny Bishop as well. Okay, so interesting in terms of that dynamic, right? 2 DBs, 1 offensive lineman. Now, with the top 30 visits, when you hear me say local visit versus your regular top 30, if you're within, I forgot the mile proximity, but if you're a local guy, like if you went to West Virginia, Penn State, Pitt, you're able to bring some of those guys in without having to count them as a top 30 visit just because of the proximity in terms of addresses, right? So with that, we'll start with the big one for me, which was the Cooper DeJean, having him come in. When we talk Cooper, man, this is one of those big versatile athletes in the secondary. Tested extremely well at his pro day. We know he didn't work out at the combine because he was recovering from a broke leg, but him and Zach Frazier both had broke legs. All right, so they're both kind of in the same boat with that. But with Cooper, he said, man, the one thing that sticks out to me when I see him is his versatility, is his size. This is a dude that's 6'1", nice frame on him, still ran 4.4, and he's able to tackle, can play some man, can play zone concepts. You could put him in the secondary in terms of that safety position. You can have him playing outside of the corner spot. I think you could also play him inside, potentially in that slot corner spot, but it just depends on the scheme. All right, so what I mean by that is, with Cooper, right, if you're just talking about flat out production, flat out athleticism, Cooper is that. We all know. All right, Cooper can return punts. He's one of the best returnmen in this draft class coming out. Watch him work with that football in his hands. We also talk about the smarts that he plays with. When I watch him in off coverage, I get a chance to see just mentally what he's processing through in terms of route combinations and when to take chances and when to just make the safe play. Sometimes that is one of the things that a lot of young players struggle with, or at times they'll struggle with the concept of playing within the confines of the defense versus trying to make this outlier special play, but you jeopardize a lot of the defense. With Cooper, I thought that, watching him, even going back and watching more games from him this past season, I thought that he just did a good job of continually, on playing and play out basis, just making good decisions in that secondary, whether it's zone concept, crashing down hard, whether it's when he wants to jump a route, or like I said, man, when it's just him communicating on passing routes and stuff like that. Now, I do think in our defense, he would be a major asset because of that ability to play outside, right? We know we got Dante Jackson, we got JPJ. Love both. Well, definitely love JPJ. We're going to see if we love Dante, if we just like Dante. I like his film, though, all right? But after that, you talk about Cooper being able to also be utilized in that rotation, okay? But the thing that kind of intrigues me about Cooper is we know he could play in that safety spot, man, free up some of the stuff with Mika, put Mika back in the middle of the field and let Mika just roam, man, play center fielder and get back to creating those splash plays like we all have grown accustomed to and that we all love, right? But after that, the next thing that I like with Cooper is this. Because of his size, because of his physicality, and more importantly, his tackling ability. I don't think you're going to find another corner in this draft that tackles as well as Cooper DeJean. Now, granted, Cooper is a lot bigger than these other guys when you're talking Nate Washington, Nate Wiggins, Quinyon Mitchell and company, Teron, and company like that. It's like these dudes are smaller, so they're a little bit quicker. They're nicer in terms of watching them get in and out of their breaks. But when you're watching in terms of the physicality, stacking, shedding blockers, right? Tackling and knocking back defenders, Cooper is giving you that on a consistent basis. So what I do feel is because of the amount of nickel that we play, you could get away with him being your slot. Now, with him being your slot corner, you're thinking more of an approach of we are bullies on defense. We are playing big body personnel, almost like what the Ravens do with Kyle Hamilton, playing him in that slot corner role at times, or also the Buffalo Bills with Taron Johnson, how they have another bigger body slot corner, handle some of the man-to-man stuff. But more importantly, if we're going to play zone concepts, man, these guys are great with their eyes, their ability to break on the ball. Now, for me, I think Cooper can do a lot of those same things because of his athleticism. And that's the part for me where I'm just like, yeah, I could rock with this one. If you gonna bring him in on a visit and you flirting with that concept of taking him in the first, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. All right. So, like I said, that was the one that I really, really liked about Cooper. It's funny, man, because Cooper has grown on me. You know, when we first started talking Cooper, man, at the beginning of the season, I was kind of like, I don't know. But now after watching more and more film on him, man, and actually getting a chance to see, you know, some of the reports about what he did at his pro day, it's like, okay, I believe it. I'm sold. All right, I want to see it. I'm intrigued by it, you know. But like I said, man, shout out to Cooper right there. Let's see what y'all think on my man Cooper DeJean, though, man. All right, let's see in the comment section what we got going on. My man Cody says Cooper's a dog. No, big facts on that, man. Noel, you crazy. He says, you know, Deke loves Cooper DeJean. No, the funny thing is this, man. Deke is like skeptical of Cooper. You know, he's a little lighter hue for the secondary, according to Deke. So, you know, that makes him just a little bit scared. I get it. They don't have the best track record, but I don't know, man. Cooper just the same way we look at Christian McCaffrey, we're like, yo, that's just a different class of running back. Don't put him like the rest of them. Like, Cooper to me is just a little bit different. When I watch him, how he moves, man, when I watch how he comes downhill and tackles, when I watch him with the ball in his hands as a return man, to me, he is a dude that knows how to play and is productive and is athletic as heck, man. So like I said, that's why I definitely like him, man. Let me see. James Moody says Cooper plays angry. No, I can definitely see that, man. Cooper kind of reminds me of Pat Pete. Respect. So I like that thought process. It's funny, man, because to me, Cooper obviously is a little bit bigger than Pat. Pat, to me, was more of the blazer. But I think Cooper, what he lacks in Pat P's athleticism in terms of the speed, that short area quickness and explosiveness, I think Cooper has him obviously in the physicality. Man, when you watch Cooper put hands on receivers trying to block him, man, he can get after them dudes. When you watch him tackle some of these running backs, he is being the hammer and not the nail. And that is what you want to see from guys in the secondary, man. And Rod Dollar says Cooper got that dog in him. Yes, I would agree. I definitely feel like Cooper has that dog in him. And that's what you want. You want to do it with that dog in him, man. We need that, especially on defense, baby. Especially on defense. So like I said, man, that was one of the first guys that came in terms of Cooper DeJean. Now, next guy I want to talk about was Zach Frazier. He was also in here, counted as a local visit just because of the proximity, right? But with Zach Frazier, very, very interesting player. Very interesting player. Once again, we know, obviously, he dealt with the broke leg at the end of the season. That was part of why, you know, he's even, you know, a little bit far in terms of the second round conversation. That's why he's back here versus being a little bit higher up. But in terms of Zach Frazier, man, this is a cat of the big three. And I say the big three centers are Jackson Powers-Johnson, Graham Barton, and then obviously I throw in Zach Frazier. Then from there, I say Cedric Van Pran is probably the fourth best in that group, okay? And obviously, he's the guy that we're talking maybe third, fourth round time frame for him. Whereas when we're talking about Zach Frazier, man, this is a dude that we're saying second round is probably the latest. And if he gets to 50, 51, we're like, yo, this is a great scenario, at least on paper. At least that's kind of how it's being projected right now. But to me, man, when you're talking Zach Frazier, the fundamentals are there. The toughness is there. Obviously, we know there's a dude that played in the bowl, not played in the bowl game, finished the game out with the broke leg, like crazy situation. High school wrestler, man. They said lost twice in his whole career, and one of them was because he got DQ'd, not knowing the rules. Like, yeah, and he was like whooping the dude. Yeah. So when you talk about that toughness, when you talk about, just the ability to be an anchor in the middle of that offensive line, also being a smart guy as well, man, I do feel like Zach brings a lot of those things to the table. Now, is he smaller than Jackson Powers-Johnson and Graham Barton? Yes. I do feel like that's also part of why I view him as the third of the group. Also, when we're just talking about the talent, right? Whether we're saying strength, whether we're saying speed, athleticism, ability to climb to the second level and get some of these linebackers and safeties in space, I do feel like he is the third best of the group with JPJ and Graham Barton. So those are some of the pros and cons when we're talking Zach Frazier. But the difference with Zach Frazier in contrast to a Cooper DeJean or any of these other non-center players, it's the position of need for us right now. That still is our biggest hole on this roster. Regardless of, how we feel about some of these other players in terms of their ability to take the next step, or if we think that they're going to kind of stay in the same place, either way, we don't have that center position by personnel to a spot where I think we should be comfortable just yet. And that's a big reason why a lot of these mock drafts have a center coming to us in the first round, man. But to me, man, Zach Frazier could definitely be that guy. Does he last to 51? That's the big question. I don't know. Part of me wants to say, yeah, man, centers are gonna fall, man. Why wouldn't they? It's a center position. But then at the same time, I think about some of the teams that need a center. And it's like, okay, they might not take them in the first round, but they're all going to be picking before us by the time we get to 51. And that's the risk that we're going to run potentially with saying, oh, man, one of these three guys got to be there. Just take whatever one is there. That's kind of the back and forth that we kind of got to deal with. But we do know that we need a center. And like I said, man, Zach Frazier is definitely one of those guys, man. So as much as I like, Cooper DeJean, to me, if we're having to pick, which one do we have to walk away from the draft with, I still lean today that is Zach Frazier of those two guys. Like I said, just because we need a center more than we need a corner / slot corner / safety. And if we're talking about taking him at 20, I don't necessarily look at the value of slot corner and say I want to take that at 20 in terms of Cooper DeJean. But when I look at Cooper DeJean as a player, I say I think his talent is worth being the 20th overall selection. So almost like the conversation of a Christian McCaffrey. Do you pay Christian McCaffrey, $20+ million to play running back? Absolutely not. But you're paying Christian McCaffrey $20+ million because it's Christian McCaffrey and all the different things that he can do to impact your offense, impact your team. So that's kind of how I look at Cooper DeJean in that first round. I don't look at him as a slot corner exclusively. I don't look at him as a safety exclusively. I look at him as a guy that can be inside corner, outside corner, could play in the box, could play in the middle of the field, give me all that versatility like that in production, along with being able to be a punt returner if I need him. So that's the way that I view him. But center is still, like I said, the biggest need for us right now. So Zach Frazier, I'm definitely excited that he came in on a visit. Like I said, man, knowing that both of those guys were here, it just ups the probability that one of those guys could potentially be drafted by us, man. And in terms of the final guy that I came in, like I said, was Benny Bishop, man. Now to me, man, slot corner, tough guy, can play against the run, man, can cover. And like I said, man, you got the local vibe with the West Virginia element of it. Now, to me, I don't think that he is a early prospect. I think he's one of the later, mid-round to later type guys. But what I do like is, in terms of him being able to come in and compete, in terms of him being able to come in and give you special teams value, I do feel like Benny could do that. But like I said, for me, man, he was kind of the one that was like, all right, I get it, local visit. So that's why, in terms of Benny, he's still here, but not same conversation as, like we said, Cooper DeJean or Zach Frazier in terms of those first round top 50 type picks, So that's, like I said, a little bit different with Benny there. But like I said, I still like the idea of bringing in some depth at that corner position, man, bringing in some depth at that slot position specifically. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on Zach Frazier coming in on a visit, on Cooper DeJean coming in on a visit, Benny Bishop as well. How you feel about those guys specifically, like I said, man, in that first round or first two rounds, man, Zach Frazier or Cooper DeJean, knowing that they've come in on a visit now, that does continue to put them in those, select few boxes of How do you get to be a first rounder? How do you get to be a top 50 draft pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers? These are some of the things you have to check off, and they've been checking those things off. So like I said in the comment section, let me know your thoughts on it. And also, if you are enjoying the solo stream today, the convo that we're having thus far to start it off with our top 30, visits for the Pittsburgh Steelers, go ahead and hit that like button one time. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, man. All right. And shout out to y'all too, man, checking in, tapping on that film session we just dropped a couple days ago. Michael Pruitt, man, obviously the new guy we just signed from Atlanta, the tight end. Definitely like how y'all were interacting and engaging with it, man. Some of those comments up there, real good insight, man. So salute y'all on that, man. All right, let's see what the people are saying. Rob Lightfoot says, I would not be mad with Cooper DeJean. All right, respect to that, man. Like I said, versatile player, guy that I definitely feel, can come in here and check a lot of boxes off in our secondary and just give us a lot more options, And I feel like he definitely plays AFC North ball. And he looks like he's an AFC North defender already, man, being in that Iowa black and gold over there. Come on now. Cody Carr says, Zach at 51 will be the pick if he's there. I would agree. My concern is I don't know if he makes it to 51, man. Like I said, when we start talking some of these other teams, man, that are going to be picking ahead of us in that second round, some of those teams, you can make a case that center is a good need for them or a secondary need after that first round. So that's the part where we would have to just decide if we want to potentially move up if, say, a Graham Barton and a JPJ get off the board prior to the second round starting or early in the second round. We might not feel the peace of mind to just want to sit and wait. We might say, you know what, let's go get this guy right now. So I'm with you on that, Cody. I do like that. Ooh, Rod Dollar says, I'll take Zach Frazier in the first. And you know what? I'm not against that, man. If you look at Zach and you simply say, this is the guy that I like the most, there's nothing wrong with that, man. If you like your guy and that's your guy and you think he's worth it, go get your guy. Now, we can make a case of if he's overdrafted and stuff like that. Could you have waited? Would you trade back? Because that's also an option, right? Trade back from that 20th spot to a little bit later in the first, and you could still grab a Zach Frazier if that was, truly what you wanted to do. But like I said, I definitely don't hate the mindset of it, though. Now, Michael G says JPJ's injury history. I mean, this is the thing, man. All these guys are going to have something about them that makes them a little, ooh. But if you operate with the mindset of, well, he got hurt multiple times, so I don't want to just touch him in the least bit, then you kind of going to do yourself a little bit of a disservice in this scenario, because I don't feel like the JPJ injury situation is to the point where he can't be touched or we should be, back up off of him. This is what happens every time it gets closer to the NFL draft actually happening, right? Whoever the guy that somebody might deem as the best prospect, as it gets closer, you start to just try to nitpick it. I've heard people say, well, he doesn't even know how to snap the ball consistently. Do you think he would be getting talked about as a first round prospect if he did not know how to snap the ball as a center? That's the stuff that we talk about. We kind of overanalyze or, kind of look into a little bit too much because of the amount of time that we still have, to weigh this decision. But as a whole, man, I'm not overly concerned about Jackson Powers Johnson's injury history. I do think that he will be fine in terms of being able to be healthy and sustain his career. Now, do injuries happen? Yes. It's 100% injury rate. If you play in the league, you're going to get hurt. The question is, when and to what extent is that injury going to be? But that's just the reality of football. But like I said, to me, man, I do feel like Jackson Powers Johnson is going to be fine. Oh, shout out to Still Nation on Fire, also with the super chat, man. Definitely appreciate you from the heart, man. He says, for wideout and cornerback, Steelers should draft someone that could play inside and outside. Well, I like your thought process, man. Ultimately trying to get the 2-for-1 combo, right? If you can get a corner that plays inside and outside, you kill two positions in one, right? If you get you a receiver that can play inside and outside, you kill two positions in one. That is ideally the approach. Now, the problem is, you don't always have that personnel available to you when you are picking, whether it's in free agency or in the draft. So sometimes you have to just say, what's the one that I want more, or what's the one that I don't have that I need more? And you kind of make your decision that way, and then you just kind of piece this thing together until you get that perfect player that can play both of those spots, man. Because, yeah, that's definitely the ideal world. That's what you want. But right now, we know that not all these players are going to be able to do that. Now, to me, in terms of inside-outside play on defense at the cornerback's position, I do feel like that's Cooper DeJean. I don't think that these other guys are going to give you the same level of high floor at corner, slot, and safety that Cooper DeJean would give us in comparison to some of these other top-rated cornerbacks. I think that the other top guys are exclusively outside corners. Yeah, I think that's what they do. You know, whereas when you talk Cooper, like I said, he could play safety. He could play that slot. He's going to hit. He's going to tackle, man. You could treat it almost like he's a will linebacker in certain cases, man. That's kind of how I look at it, man. Like big, beefy, yeah, go play that athletic spot right there, man, and make plays for us, man. That's kind of how I envision it. All right, Richard Adamson says Zach would be great, plug and play all day, and I agree, man. That's the type of vibe that you want with him right there, man. All right, let's see, and shout out to y'all, man. Y'all in the building today, man. I definitely like that. Definitely like it. All right. Now Cody Call says one of the three centers got to drop to the 45 range, and I'm with you on that. The problem is we don't pick at 45. We don't pick at 46, 47 to 48, right? We all the way in that 51 spot. So you still run the risk of a team selecting one of these dudes in that spot, and then we could realistically miss out on the big three of centers by the time we're picking at 51. That is a very legitimate thing, and I think the more Zach Frazier moves up some of these draft boards potentially, the more you run that risk. I think Graham Barton, he's going to go in that first, or they're, you know, almost all the analysts are predicting him now to be in that first round. Similar with Jax Powers-Johnson. Worst case for JPJ, they're saying, you know, early in that second, similar with Zach Frazier. Now, if either one of those dudes go in that first as well, now the probability of them being there at 51 is slim to none. So, like I said, that's just the thing that we kind of all got to weigh, and Omar got to, you know, play that game, man. Hey, who in front? Who about to pick? You know the drill, okay? All right. Let's see. Yeah, do what Noam says as well. And Michael G. They say smash them likes, man. Like up the stream, man. One time for the culture, baby. One time for the culture. And Rod Dollars, yeah, Spencer Anderson is a dog, man. Definitely like him. But would you bank on Spencer just as is being the day one guy going into next season? I don't know if everybody's going to feel comfortable with that in that organization. So, like I said, man, that's part of it. But Spencer Anderson, man, he made a lot of noise in training camp last year in terms of his versatility. And I think that he's another guy that you could make as a dark horse candidate. But I look at Spencer Anderson in the same vein as a Nate Herbig or as a James Daniels in terms of them playing that center spot. It's like, man, I like the idea, but I don't have a lot of comfort in that idea. I don't feel good about it, you know, at my core. I'm just kind of like what J. Cole said, man. Like, hey, man, it's in my core. I say feel good about it. Might delete later. And then he actually deleted it. Who would have thought? All right. But that's kind of the mindset right now. It's just like, yo, we could rock with him, but I think I want one of them ones, man. Oh, shout out to Mike Hood also, man, pulling up with a super chat, man. Definitely appreciate you from the heart, baby. Mike Hood says, what's TG's thoughts on Frazier? He's clearly hip to that program. He clearly knows that program, and he went to it. Yeah, absolutely, man. We've had TG, Terrence Garvin, come on the show multiple times, and he's talked about Zach Frazier. It was funny, man, because initially he gave us the whole, you know, he's West Virginia guy, so he got to be dope just because he went to West Virginia. You know, it's almost heaven. So if you went there, then it's like you're a god athlete, you know, just perfect player. That's how he was trying to describe him. But as a whole, man, he does rock with him a lot, man. In terms of his athleticism, his smarts, his physicality, and his toughness. That's the one thing that he talked about, man. He says that, you know, in terms of how he plays the game, he plays it the right way. He could definitely be a Steeler. He sees that in him. And I see it as well. I mean, Zach Frazier is one of those dudes that if you watch his tape, it doesn't take a long time to realize why, you know, a lot of teams like him and why we like him. Because you watch him play and it's like, yo, I don't have to coach this up. this is fundamentally sound. I don't have to talk about his effort. He's competing to the whistle every single time. I don't have to ask, does he know what to do? Nah, he goes exactly what he's supposed to every single time. And you see the leadership out there. That's the part for me where it's like, yo, it's not a lot of guesswork with Zach Frazier. It's just that to me, when I'm comparing him to JPJ, who I think is a bigger player, and he actually is a bigger like player size-wise, stuff like that. I think that if they're both the same, but he's bigger and doing the exact same thing at this level, you take the size, you know? Like you go with the bigger athlete versus the smaller athlete. And that's the difference to me between JPJ and Zach Frazier. But then that's also the conversation when you're saying JPJ versus Graham Barton. We're going to talk Graham Barton a little bit as well. But those two dudes, a similar concept, man. Graham Barton, Graham Barton, JPJ, both, you know, show a high level of, you know, ability to be productive in the center or at the interior part of the offensive line. But Graham Barton's bigger than JPJ. So as you can see how the mindset kind of works with it, that's, you know, kind of how we're going with this name, man. But TG definitely is a fan of Zach Frazier, though, man. Definitely is. Could we get a so no, I'm asking, we get a UFL guy as a center and have him compete with one of our in-house guys. Yeah, I mean, that's not out of the equation of it. But once again, you just have to understand what you are potentially opening yourself up to. If the big complaint last year was Mason Cole was not good enough, right? He was not consistent enough to the point where people were looking forward to him ultimately being released. Remember, he was not a run-of-the-mill center. He was not a UFL center. He was not a late-round draft pick center. He was a center that was getting paid, that we went and signed in free agency and gave a couple millions to. And he was a lot better than Kendrick Green. The thing is, man, when you start talking going UFL, bringing one of those guys up and competing with one of the guys that we currently have in-house, which we currently don't have, you're just putting a lot of risk in, you know, not having a lot of production and consistency at that position. And just based on what we've seen throughout the past 5 years, when the center position hasn't been consistent, whether that's snapping the football, whether that's physicality, whether that's just ability, the offensive line struggles, the quarterback struggles. So yes, we could go into the UFL. Yes, we could look at whoever's available remaining in free agency and have one of those guys compete, and we ultimately throw out the best guy of that bunch. But I just think that we're pulling from a lot smaller of a talent pool, and we're going to be asking for something that I don't know if those guys are going to be capable of next season. So like I said, that's my only hesitancy with that, though. All right. But now let's transition, man. Let's get to this next topic today, man, because like I said, man, we do got a couple of things we got to discuss. But the homie Mel Kiper, let me get his face up here. What up, Mel? Shout out to Mel Kiper, man. He recently dropped a updated mock draft for the first round, man. That was also, I think, over the weekend. And in the first round, he mocked to us none other than Graham Barton, well, he's technically a left tackle this past season at Duke, but ultimately he will be transitioning to the center position. That's what he's been projected as throughout this whole process. And the more you go back and watch him, it makes 100%. It makes a lot more sense in terms of, you know, the thought process with that. But yeah, man, Mel Kiper ultimately mocked Graham Barton to us in that first round. So let's talk about it, man. What are your thoughts on Mel Kiper mocking Graham Barton to us in the first round? The big thing that he says is we ultimately need a center. We still haven't addressed that. He feels that, you know, based on Graham Barton's testing at the pro day, if you just compare that to any of these other centers that were coming out and you look at those particular metrics, man, yeah, Graham Barton is going to be off the charts, right? Off the charts compared to the other centers. That's the part that you love about him. That size, that athleticism, the short area quickness. Checks off a ton of those boxes. Also, when you go back and you look at his tape from his freshman year, you see him playing at a very high level at the center position before transitioning to left tackle. You also just think of his versatility, right? This is a guy that we saw play multiple spots and look extremely good at multiple spots. The big reason why he's not going to stay at left tackle is arm length. He has shorter arms for the tackle position, and when you're talking about speed rushers, guys that are able to, take it from that 12th floor and then drop that thing down to the 3rd floor and bend that corner at 2 steps, that's tough for those type of guys with shorter arms. So that's a big reason why for him, he is being just being viewed really as a center, but because of the size, because of the athleticism, because of the production and the larger sample size with Graham Barton, because you've seen him play multiple spots on the offensive line, but do it for multiple seasons as well, you just feel a lot more comfortable with him. Very different than the conversation that we had when it was Kendrick Green. Right, we talked about Kendrick Green. We were saying, man, this is a guy that's going to be switching positions to play center. And we talked ourselves into it. We liked it initially because of the athleticism, because of the quickness that Kendrick Green possessed. But ultimately, it didn't work out. But the thing that I will say is very different between the two. When we're talking about Kendrick Green, man, you go back and look, former D lineman that transitioned to offensive line, right? Then he was a guard that transitioned to center, but he was always undersized, right? He was a smaller player for the position. And we said, man, from a historical context, if we were just looking at the different centers in the league at the time that Kendrick Green was our center, he was the smallest guy. That's a little bit of an issue right there. And we saw how it became a bigger issue for us. With Graham Barton, man, he's just a lot bigger of a player. And he has an extensive history of playing offensive line, center, left tackle, guard. So you just feel, like I said, a lot better about this, about Graham's ability to transition from left tackle back to center and still be able to hold his own and still be a daggone good player to start this thing out with a very high ceiling because of his athleticism. So like I said, for me, man, I like him a lot. I'm the more I watch it, it's like, man, I'm hesitant just because of him not playing center. As I'm watching him on tape, I have to go back, like I said, multiple years to get to that center tape. But when you're just talking about the ability and the raw talent, it's hard to not be excited about the thought of him playing center for us next season and what that can mean for our offensive line, man. So like I said, man, that was Mel Kiper, and that was what he ended up doing. Like I said, mocking Graham Barton to us in the 1st round at 20th overall. And like I said, man, his big thought process was this is the most athletic center, and that's a big reason why a lot of the dudes in terms of the size, production, they feel like he is the best guy between him and JPJ. Pick your flavor, right? But that was ultimately the guy that he mocked to us. So let me know in the comment section, man, how you guys feel about Graham Barton potentially being our 20th overall selection, man. Like I said, this is Mel Kiper and what he just most recently mocked to us in his most recent NFL mock draft. Yeah, Cody Carr says he could play center. He's athletic and can play at any position. Yep, I agree with you, man. I agree. Richard Arbizo says he's falling in love with Barton as the pick over JPJ as we get closer to the draft. And I could definitely understand it, man. JPJ, a.k.a. SpongeBob, which is the nickname they giving him. Man, he checks off a lot of boxes, man. He's athletic, powerful, plays well in space, climbs to the 2nd level, does all those things that you love to see. But you look at Graham Barton and you're just like, man, you're doing the same thing, but you're bigger. But you're doing it at tackle now. Like I said, man, playing in even more space. So it really had to show off his athleticism. It really had to show off his footwork, his technique, his fundamentals, and his athleticism in terms of being able to bend versus some of the speed, anchor versus some of the power rushers, and the length that you deal with versus DNs. In contrast, when you're in the interior part of that offensive line, you're dealing with more of the big body types, but maybe not as athletic as some of those DNs, 3-4 outside linebackers and such that you deal with out there at tackle. Gracie says that they like Barton. Okay. Noam says he hates it at 20. Okay, all right. Which I'm assuming that you would rather trade back then. Is that what I think that's what I'm taking from you. Okay. Wave Dave 10 says I would love Barton at 20. Nah, I'm with you, man. Like I said, Graham Barton, if that was the guy that, you know, in 2 weeks, we walk away with in the first round, man, I'm feeling good about it. I'm excited about what that means for our offensive line. I'm excited about what it means for our running game, what it means for these quarterbacks, man. And yeah, I think that we're, you know, bringing in a centerpiece, an anchor for our offensive line for the next, you know, like I said, 5 to 10 with him and Broderick, man, keeping those two young guys, allowing them to kind of grow together. I love it, man. Love it. Gracie says he wants to go tackle in the second, not in the first. Okay. And BSG74 says, doesn't JPJ have a history of injuries like concussions? Multiple ones from what I read. Yes, he has had concussions. That is accurate. At the same time, if you test a lot of these dudes, man, a lot of these dudes have had concussions. That's a part of playing football. Is that going to deter me from drafting JPJ? No. Is that something that we can take note of? Sure. But if you're not going to draft these dudes because of, like I said, some of those type of injuries, I do feel like you're kind of doing yourself a disservice if that's the main reason why you don't pick them. All right. I do feel like certain injuries are a little bit different, but to me, I don't look at what he's been dealing with in the same vein. But like I said, that could be how I view it. Everybody else is a little bit different than that. Some people, they're not tripping on it. That goes back to the conversation of Amarius Mims, right? He's a dude that high-end talent, but he's missed a good amount of time just for some injury stuff. Nothing major, but he's missed time. Is that going to deter people from wanting to pick him? I'm sure there are people that are kind of hesitant about that. To me, I don't think that you should be. I think that you're doing yourself a disservice if you take him off your board because of the injuries. Because when you look at when he's been out there, he's been dominant. And that's the part for me where I'm siding with what I see versus me trying to almost protect against something that's inevitable. Guys are going to get hurt. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter your position. You play in this game, it's going to happen. Now, for some dudes, it's like, man, you just got a little bit more bad luck than others. But I don't feel like that personally with JPJ, man. So, like I said, that's kind of how I look at it. And that's kind of how I also look at Amarius Mims as well. All right. Let's see. Okay, so JDA 940 says, I think Cooper, in terms of Cooper DeJean, gives us the biggest upside. As much as I want to address the trenches, I think he might be the best available if he's there. And you know what, JDA 940? I agree. It's hard to pass up on Cooper if he's sitting there at 20, and I'm looking at him versus some of these center prospects or some of these interior offensive lineman prospects. Yes, the value, or yes, the need for center is greater than the need for, you know, a corner / safety. But the value and the production that Cooper DeJean gives me, and just the overall talent that I think he is as a player, I think is just a difference between what he could do from an impactful, just being a high-end talent on our team versus the need of, man, let's go get one of these centers. I'm almost in the mindset of, bro, if Cooper was there, go get Cooper, and then we could trade up in that second round and go try to get one of these centers, man. Just be aggressive and knowing that we have to get one, so you have to trade up. Don't sit at 51. Now, does that mean we got to give up a draft or a potential pick, you know, in that third? Or do you give up something a little bit later or something in 2025 to move up in that second round? I don't know. But I do feel like if you go Cooper in that first, or you go anything other than a center in that first, you put a lot more pressure on yourself to have to get a center in that second or third round, man. Now, we know the longer we go, it's just the more risk you're going to be taking on these prospects. Not saying they can't come in and play at a high level and be perfect players and, you know, check off every box as soon as they come out there. But the probability of that happening, the later you find them in the draft, it just decreases. So that's the thing that we got to understand. All right, so Gracie says value over need. Learn our lesson from Artie Burns. Okay, I like it, man. Because that was a truth. That's a true statement right there, man. When we talked about the Artie Burns draft selection, we know that he wasn't necessarily what we would say was the best player that was available, but he played the position that was our biggest need. And at that time, the Bengals, if I remember correctly, they drafted, oh man, I'm drawing a blank on my man. We had literally just signed him too. But they drafted the DB, literally the pick before we were going to pick. And that was the guy that we wanted. And ultimately, we still turned around and drafted Artie Burns because we had to have him, man. Had to have him, man. So we saw how that kind of played out. We don't necessarily want to repeat that, which I understand. So that is part of why we're seeing the whole concept of, you know, if this player is the best player from a talent standpoint, don't reach and overdraft, you know, because this is because this is the position that we need. You take this dude that we know is a talented player and we can figure this part out by just being a little bit more aggressive here. And yeah, that's the cause and effect of it. But that's the NFL draft. That's the NFL. That's building your roster. You're going to have to, you know, do that tug of war, right? Which one? Value versus talent. Okay. Then you throw in cost. Then you throw in age. All right. All that kind of plays into this thing together, man. But I like how y'all rocking this morning, man. I like how y'all rocking with me today, man. And shout out to Milton. Was it Milton K's uncle? He said he got that fire this morning. He's listening to the boys. Man, shout out to you, man. I like the combo, baby. Research while you're kicking it with me. We can't go wrong with that. No, not at all. Not at all. William Jackson, that was the name. Shout out to you, Yanni. Yeah, man, definitely appreciate you on that. William Jackson. Yeah, I see you mixed by Hurst. Shout out to y'all, man. I know y'all with me today. I know y'all was with me today. Yeah. As I'm over here still recovering from my super late night, long day watching all them UFC fights, man. Sheesh. Huh. Still was an electric night. Electric night. I'm over here. I'm like, yo, I'm going to watch the fights. Then I couldn't sleep because I'm so jacked up on the fight juice that, yeah, man, I had to go ahead and cut on some more tape, man. I was up about 3 in the morning watching these cats, man. I love football. I love the game. I love the game, baby. I can't help myself, man. Can't help myself. But it's fun, isn't it? This is why we do it, man. And clearly y'all rock with the game the same way y'all rocking with me because that's why we up here having this convo. This is what we do, all right? In the middle of April. Let's talk ball. Hit that like button too, man, while we at it. I know some of y'all are new. So if you are new, man, I see we are building, we are growing, we are getting strong. All right, we got a nice little community over here. Hit that subscribe button, man, because we want everybody to grow together, okay? And like I said, man, as we're talking about some of these mocks, don't forget, man, we recently updated the website, arthurmoats.com, with a lot of your new mocks that you've been sending in that necessarily don't make the podcast live or they don't make our Saturday shows, right? But we did update the website, man, so check that out, arthurmoats.com, man. You can see a lot of the mocks that have been up there, man, from some of your peers and see how y'all feel about them, all right? And yes, Mike Hood, the Masters is on. Shout out to Tiger Woods as well, man. Made the cut for, was it the 24th consecutive year? Yeah, in a row. So salute the homie on that. But yeah, I got to talk to Deke. Deke's my golf expert. I'm saving this for him tomorrow because as I was looking, I'm like, man, them first 3 rounds, it's like, bro, they cooking that first. And then it's like, And it's like, But then you look at this Scotty Scheffler, I'm just like, bro, he's just cooking all across. Like, man, I gotta pick his brain a little bit, man. But shout out, though. Shout out. All right. Let's see. Where are we going next? All right. So now, since we are, like I said, on the back end of this thing, man, we'll go ahead and react to a couple of the fan mock drafts that did come in, man. Salute y'all for these, man. Like I said, we're going to talk about a couple of them today. And then obviously throughout the week, man, with the podcast, man, me and Deke will react to even more then, since we are about 2 weeks away from that NFL draft. Crazy, man. But first mock that I want to react to from the homie Chris Gillis, man. Shout out to Chris, man. Obviously, one of the cats, man, that has pulled up on me at the games, man. Met him, sent the picture of himself as well, man. So salute you, man. It was good to see you again. But this was the mock that he sent in. And as you can see, man, first round, he went with the homie Cooper DeJean. We was obviously just talking about him at various points today. But Cooper DeJean in the first at 20th overall. Then at 51, went with Jackson Powers Johnson. If that's available like that, baby, I love it. Tell you now, love it. Went with Jalen McMillan in the 3rd round, 84th overall. Went with Roger Rosengarter. Shout out to the big body right tackle. Not big body, but tall body right tackle out of Washington. Then at 119, Jaden Hicks, safety out of Washington State. Very productive player, might I add. 178, athletic interior D lineman Gabe Hall. And then at 195, Jordan Whitington, the receiver out of Texas. Now, as a whole, Chris, I like this draft a lot. If it plays out, them first 2 picks where Jackson Powers-Johnson is available at 51, after you get Cooper DeJean at 20, this was literally what we were just talking about. Yeah, this would be beautiful. I think this is best case scenario to start it off. You know, in terms of Cooper DeJean, a versatile guy that can play inside, can play outside, can play that safety spot, physical, can tackle, can run back punts. Yeah, that's the one. And then Jackson Powers-Johnson, I got my center. I have my day 1 starter. I feel great about the move, and I'm ready to roll. I'm checked the boxes off. I'm good to go with those guys. Then you bring in Jalen McMillan. Jalen is going to cook. That's a guy, man, that could play inside, could play slot, could play outside, could play the slot position, could take you down the grass, man, has speed, beautiful run after catch ability. Definitely a fan of Jalen McMillan, man. We know he was a part of that trio of dominant receivers out there in Washington. He can go. He can definitely go, man. Roger Rosengartner. Like I said, man, he's interesting to me because he's built like a left tackle in terms of tall, long, linear, but he's slimmer in terms of the tackle spot. And typically your thinner, more athletic guys are at the left spot. Your big body, you know, road graders are kind of at the right tackle spot. Think about a Zach Banner versus a Alejandro Villanueva. And that's kind of the mindset with it. But I do like Roger, though, man. I think that he's productive. I think he does a good job in terms of using his length to his advantage. And the things that I see that I like about him is he's fundamentally sound, is his ability to anchor, is his ability to play in space, climb to the second level. What's the question mark with him, or why he's viewed at 98th and not higher? Speed rushers. He's a tall guy, so he has to get down there, and sometimes that is where you can, you know, find him dropping his head versus bending at his knees and and stuff like that. And that's, you know, one of the things that you just got to deal with as a taller tackle. Jaden Hicks, though, I think that dude, he could fly back on that back end, very productive. I like his ball skills as well. Gabe Hall, like I said, he's a little bit undersized for that interior D-line spot in our defense, I feel. But at the same time, man, this dude, he gets off that ball, man. He gets into that backfield, and I love his effort. I don't think that he, you know, just wins by just cooking guys, but he never stops playing. And that can be just as productive as the guy that has the, you know, full array of moves but doesn't have the same effort and intensity snap in and snap out. And then when you're talking Jordan Whittington, I think for me, man, this is silky smooth route running, man. This is a dude that understands how to create separation. He's going to catch that football. The only problem with him is my dog ain't got no juice. Or not a lot of juice, man. When you watch him in that open field, man, he's not running away from a lot of players. Like I said, he's going to create that separation, short area quickness, man, smooth route runner. But that is the part of why he's at 195 and not, you know, being a higher rated dude. He's not going to blow by, you know. And at that position, you want guys that when they got that football in their hand, they're able to go, you know. So like I said, man, that's part of it. But to me, man, I like this draft a lot, man. I think this is a solid pickup right here, man. And like I said, if it works out like that in them first 3 rounds, baby, I think this is a W. But Cody Cole, I'm with you, man. Jackson Powers-Johnson falling at 51. I do not see it, man. I do not see it. But I would love it, though. I would definitely love it, man. But shout out to you right there, Chris. All right. Next one on the docket, man, we got the homie Lando Potato. Shout out to Lando Potato. One time for the culture. So Lando, first round, he trades back out of that 20th spot to the Arizona Cardinals. My former employer. Shout out to them boys out there on the west side. All right. But from there, man, he moves back to the 27th overall spot in the first round and picks up an additional 3rd round pick, 66 overall, and an additional 5th round pick, 138th overall. First round at 27th overall, he gets Amarius Mims, the athletic right tackle out of Georgia. Definitely a fan, like that pick. At 51, he goes with Troy Franklin, the speedy wide receiver out of Oregon. Third round, 66 overall, Kyrie Jackson, physical, speedy, productive corner out of Oregon. Third round, 84th overall, he went with Cedric Van Pran, athletic, physical center out of Georgia. Then, man, he got a teammate on team, and I kind of like your energy right there. I like that, Lando. Then in the third round, at 98th overall, he went with a little bloodline right here. He went Jeremiah Trotter Jr., linebacker out of Clemson. Then at the fourth round, 119th overall, went with Tyke Smith, the physical, speedy, productive safety out of Georgia, formerly of West Virginia. Shout out to my Mountaineer fans over there. Then in the fifth round, that one that he picked up via trade, went with Christian Boyd, athletic interior D lineman out of Northern Iowa. Sixth round, 178, went with Mr. Route You Up, Mr. Production, Mr. Bloodline, Luke McCaffrey as well, wide receiver out of Rice. And then he knows the way to my heart. All right, if you want to get me to like your mock draft, you go ahead and draft Jalen Green, pass rusher D lineman out of JMU in the sixth round, 195 overall. Yeah, man. Shout out to Lando. Shout out to Lando. So, in terms of this mock, I like the trade back, man, to pick up the additional third and the additional fifth. Because at 27, if you're getting Amarius Mims, we're still going to love Amarius Mims. Has he missed some time? Sure. But once again, man, I feel like his production and his talent when he's been on that field outweighs the time that he's missed via injury because of high ankle sprain. It's like, I'm not tripping on that. Could he come back? Sure. But them dudes that make it to the natty, they ain't make it to the college football playoff. So now you're asking the question of, do you run this risk of playing in bowl game, or do you kind of chill? Do you recover? But to me, man, when he's been out there, he's been productive. I also think back to him with Broderick Jones. National championship, semifinals game as well. Those were the tackles. Those were the guys killing folk. So I love that move right there. Troy Franklin in the second. Man, he's speedy. He going to take the top off the defense, man. He can go. Definitely like that. Kyrie Jackson, like I said, physical, productive. That gives me another dude that, number one, worst case is competition for Dante Jackson, but best case, man, I feel like I got me another dude that can get after it over there, man, with size. Third round as well, 84th overall, Cedric Van Pran. You can work with Cedric, and Cedric can still come in here, and he's still going to feel good about, or we're still going to feel really good about him playing center. Like I said, is there going to be a little bit more of a, not a learning curve, because I'm not questioning his ability to grasp the position from a mental standpoint, but from a just athleticism and playing at this level standpoint, you will have a little bit more of those growing pains, I feel like, early on with Cedric, in contrast to some of the other guys. But you still got you a center. So that's what you had to do. You checked off that box. Jeremiah Trotter, man, I like this move a lot. Athletic, physical, more old school than new school style, but think of him as a more athletic Landon Roberts. Man, you put him in that fold with a Patrick Queen. After a year, man, you turn the ranks over to both of them two dudes. Yeah, I like that a lot. But he also, like I said, man, could push for time this year early on. Then from there, man, when you go with Tyke Smith, can never go wrong with a physical dude like him. Gives me that Bob Sanders vibes in terms of how he plays the game, the physicality, the speed, the intensity. Yeah, definitely a fan of that. Christian Boyd, like I said, man, athletic interior D lineman, dudes that know how to get after it, dudes that know how to penetrate the offensive line and just be disruptive. That's him. He is also a little bit on the smaller side, though. Hence the reason why he's, in the fifth. Same with Luke. Luke, talented as heck, productive as heck. Big thing is some of the athleticism, right? Some of that speed part. But we ain't tripping on it because he's still nice. He's still going to get that rock. He's still going to create separation, and he catches the football. He's a really natural hands catcher, so I definitely like that. And like I said, Jalen, man, is a dude that before he got injured last season, man, 9 games into this thing, leading the nation in sacks, leading in tackles for loss, ultra productive dude, good length, good size. Like I said, man, the big reason why he's in the 6th round right now is because he's coming off of a torn ACL, and he's in the heart of not in the heart of it, but he's on close towards the back end of that recovery, but that's the big thing with him, man. Just got hurt at the wrong time. But the talent is unquestionably there. You see it. The production is there. Yeah, this dude that, man, if you want to bring in a dude that can rush the passer, man, yeah, he's that. And then we think about the new special teams rules as well. He's definitely going to check off those boxes in terms of being able to be productive in that aspect. So yeah, man, definitely like this one right here, man. Definitely a fan of it. Shout out to Lando Potato. But let's see what y'all say about it, man. How do y'all feel about Lando Potato's mock draft? Noam says, I would love this draft. Okay. Wave Dave 10 says, I really like this mock with the fire emoji. Okay, Lando. All right. Quan Summer says, I like the draft because you never know where them sleepers are going to be at. Fire. Now, he might be just saying the draft in general, but I'm going to make it like he was talking about this draft too, all right? So either way, fire it up. Oh, Noam even said, throw in Frank Gore Jr. as an unrestricted free agent while we at it. Hey, I ain't tripping on that either, man. Trust me, man. Shout out to OG Frank Gore as well, man. Like I said, definitely a fan from competing against him, man, from chopping it up with him, man. So I definitely like it. Mike Hood gives it a B. Says we need a center sooner than that. I can definitely understand that thought process, man. I can definitely understand that. Quan Summer gave it an A. Champa gave it a B. Okay. Like I said, man, I like this draft a lot, man. And Richard Arbizo says he feels like he's the only one who's not a big Luke McCaffrey guy. Well, I mean, Luke isn't the most explosive dude. He didn't go to the biggest school, so I get it, man. But the one thing that I would say is he's just one of those guys that just looks like he knows how to play football. He grew up in a football family. You talk about the McCaffrey family, man. Those dudes have been doing it, you know, at a high level, man. Whether you're talking about the dad, Ed, whether you're talking about Christian, and now even we're looking at Luke. So I could definitely understand it, though, baby. I could definitely understand it. Damon Brown. Shout out to Damon Brown. What up, baby? Gave it an A+. Light skin Jesus 92 gave it a B+. And No Am says A- on the draft by Lando Potato. So shout out to Lando Potato, man. All right. Well, the last mock that I will react to today is from the homie Raymond Kane, man. Shout out to Raymond Kane. Every time I say your name, Raymond, I'm just letting you know now. I think of, you know, Cane's, because I like Cane's. The chicken spot. It's really good. It's tasty. So shout out to you. Shout out to you, Raymond. All right, but anywho, Raymond, first round, he has us not trading back. He said, nah, bump that. We traded up. He has us trading the 20th overall selection, our 84th overall selection, which is our third round pick, and our second round pick for next year to the Chicago Bears for the 9th overall selection in this year's draft, along with the 122nd selection in the 4th round of this year's draft as well. And with this aggressive trade off the top rope from the homie Raymond Kane, he went with Rome Odunze, wide receiver out of Washington at 9th overall. If they did that, and that's the one they got, oh, we cooking. I like it. But that's aggressive. Super aggressive. Just throwing it out there. Super aggressive. But if that's your guy, go get your guy, man. I'm a big believer in that. Rome is fire. Rome gonna route you up, gonna run by you. When he got that football in his hands, he's tough to tackle. He's a consistent catcher of the football with his hands. I don't have a lot of complaints with Rome. Not in the least bit, baby. Not in the least bit. Aggressive. That's an aggressive move to start it off. But if that's the guy that you want, I'm all for it, baby. All right. I just wish that you would have swindled the Bears a little bit better, though, because we know Omar has a very strong track record with the Bears and having a lot more success. So instead of, you know, giving up the 20th overall, maybe we would have gave up the 51st overall for the 9th overall selection. You know, Chicago we dealing with. All right, that's all I'm going to say with you, baby. All right, but other than that, we cooking to start this out. Get Zach Frazier in the 2nd round, 51st overall. If he's there, I love that. Dwayne Carter. Mr. Carter. Oh, that's the other one. All right. But in the 4th round, 101st overall selection, man, Dwayne could play, man, productive. A little bit smaller, but, man, this is the dude that is going to be active on that D-line. Definitely like that. Then from there, man, made another trade. This time he traded back. All right, took that 3rd round pick, the 90th overall selection, and our 6th round pick, 195. Traded that to the Carolina Panthers to get that 4th round, 101st selection, which we just said we drafted Dwayne Carter with. And then he got an additional 5th round pick, 141 overall, additional 7th round pick, 240 overall, and an additional 7th round pick for next year's draft, 2025. All right, then from there, went with Christian Jones, big body right tackle out of Texas at 119. Went with Kamal Hayden in the 4th, 122 overall, corner out of Tennessee. I like Kamal. I like that play a lot, man. Shout out to you for that pickup. Then at 141, Cedric Green, off-ball linebacker out of UNC, can get after it. And then he went with the mutant, Anthony Richardson 2.0. At 178th overall, Joe Milton III, quarterback out of Tennessee. And then in the 7th round, 240th overall, with that last pick that he got via trade from the Panthers, went with the very, very elusive route runner, tight end, Tanner McLaurin out of Arizona. As a whole, love how you started this thing off. The trade was kind of aggressive, but if that's what you love, that's what you love, so I don't hate it. But Rome Odunze, man, he can hoop, he can go, he can ball, so definitely like that. Zach Frazier, I had to get a center. Definitely like that. Dwayne Carter, interior D lineman, is going to push Larry. He's going to push DeMarvin. He's going to push Isaiah. He's going to push all them dudes. I like that. Like that a lot. Wasn't the biggest fan of this trade that we did in the 3rd. But if you wanted to pick up the additional draft picks, I understand that thought process. So, you know, with that being the case, going Dwayne Carter, going Christian Jones, and then going Kamal Hayden, we got big on O-line, we got a big tackle, and then we got us a versatile corner that I think is going to be able to compete in that slot. He's going to be able to compete on that back end, man. Just make us feel good about the spot, man. So, like I said, definitely like that. Cedric Gray, I like him. I like him a lot, man. He was productive. I want to say he was at the Senior Bowl, if I remember correctly, with Cedric. But really good player in his own right, man. Athletic, productive. Joe Milton, if you're going to take a flyer on a mutant at quarterback and you can get him in the 6th round, man, I don't hate it. If I'm picking between Joe Milton and Jordan Travis, at least Joe Milton is healthy, so at least he'll be able to get more reps during this time frame. But if you wanted to go Jordan Travis because the talent and production is there, I like that too. But we know he's coming off of the leg injury late in the year. Tanner McLaurin, he could play, man. He's a route running receiver though. I mean, he's a route running tight end. I say a big, oversized wide receiver. Right now, he has to improve his blocking, man. He's more of a, I'm going to fall into it, and when I get there, I'm going to give you the best that I got, but he has to be a lot better with his blocking. That's the big reason why he's a 7th round prospect versus going a lot higher, because if we're just strictly talking about your ability to throw him the football and him route guys up, it doesn't matter if it's a linebacker or a safety, man. He's giving dudes the blues trying to guard him when he's running routes. But the thing that he struggles with is when you can put your hands on him and get him before he's off that line of scrimmage, man, or if he's having to block, it can get bad at times, man. So that's, like I said, a little bit of the knock with him. But as a whole, Raymond, man, I like what you're doing with this one, man. So let's see what the congregation says. Let's see what the people got to say. All right. Oh, yeah, it looks like the people was liking that Rome trade. Okay, they liking that Rome trade. Noam says Rome is nice as heck. I think he could push GP and compete for that big contract. Oh, I'm 100% with you. Rome Odunze, he fire. Don't play with that, man. He fire. Yeah. Okay. Mike Hood says, LOL, fleece the Bears. Now, you know we got to fleece the Bears, man. We are not giving them any fair trades. No fair deals. We want swindles. That's how we work with them, man. They know what time it is. All right. Just one more cast says A++. I've made that trade up before also. Rome is awesome. I like that mindset, man. Like I said, I'm not against trading up. The same way we talk about trading back to get more picks, and we equate just a larger net being cast with more production. That's not always the same as this dude is just in a different class of talent than any of these dudes you're going to be picking in the 2nd and 3rd round. That's why, for me, it's like, man, if you love Rome Odunze and that's the guy that you want, go get him. If you can make a trade and you can go get him, go get him. So yeah, definitely like that, man. No, that's funny. He says TG's giving this an A+. Now, you know he is. He likes this aggressive trade up stuff, and he got a mutant at the back in terms of Joe Milton. Yeah, he like that, man. He like that. Now, Big Bone says this is the most realistic and unrealistic trade. I would agree. It's the Chicago Bears. We've seen worse happen to them, man. I still don't know how this Justin Fields thing played out. How did that happen? I don't know. This is the thing, though. It's the Chicago Bears, baby. It's Chicago Bears. So you don't really ask a lot of questions. You just roll with it. You're like, all right, it's the Bears. Of course they would do this. All right. And the way Omar's working, I don't know what evidence or what secret Omar has locked in that safe of his. But yeah, I feel bad for all the Chicago Bears, man. Don't be surprised in like 3 years we get Caleb Williams for like a conditional 4th. All right. Don't be tripping. Demond says a B+ for him. Mike Hood says he'd give it a B. All right. Champa says B+ would have been an A if they stayed in the 3rd and grabbed Sorenstill to be our slot corner. I like that, man. Either him, my man Jaron Jones out of Florida State, any of those dudes. That was the one for me that I was kind of I didn't really like that the most. I think it was a little bit too aggressive in terms of just like, not aggressive, but like trade happy. Like, all right, you made the first trade, that was knocked out the park, that was beautiful. I just feel like he kind of went back and was like, man, let me try to get another one real quick. It's like, nah, man, like, you good as is, baby, you good as is. So I definitely can dig that, man. Okay. Rob Lightfoot says that was his favorite mock draft yet, and he's seen a buttload of mocks. Shout out. Noam also says, I think Rome would be a great leader. GP would need to step up if he wants that second contract. Yeah, you put a lot of pressure on GP in terms of him having to consistently deliver and just be a good leader, right? In terms of that contract situation, because Rome is definitely going to push him, and if that was the case, man, Rome is one of those dudes, man. Definitely one of those dudes. Ooh, Wave Dave 10 says, I like Kamal Hayden. He would have been a top guy if he didn't get hurt. That's a big fact. He says, but this ain't realistic, LOL. I mean, that's the thing, man. We'll see, man. Like I said, I could definitely see Kamal going a lot higher than that. We know he was hurt. That's the big thing, but he could go, man. Productive ball skills. I like his game, man. Yeah, but this is how we do with these mocks, man. You know how it goes, man. You know how it goes. Now, Light Skin Jesus says a C+. Trade up for a wide receiver is not his cup of tea. I could definitely understand that also because, like we said, man, the wide receivers that we've been seeing coming out, it's like, yo, you can't miss with these dudes, right? So I could definitely understand that mindset of why should we give up any type of extra assets for players or position that we can get value from or get production from, you know, by sitting there at 20 or even at 51. I get it. Kind of like how people talk about running backs. I get it. I just look at it as Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, right? Alvin Kamara, Travis Etienne. These are all guys that we view, yeah, they play running back, but we don't look at them as just run-of-the-mill running backs. We're saying to ourselves, man, these are guys that, you know, make their teams a lot better. So even though you technically wouldn't want to invest in those guys, whether that's in draft capital or in contracts, those guys have all been either first-round draft picks or second, third contract guys because of how their team views their impact, man. And I just think that that's kind of a similar thought process, man, with the wide receiver position. If you think that Rome is going to give you that type of impact and we're saying that he's just that special of a player, then you don't look at it as you're trading up for a wide receiver. You look at it as I'm trading up for this specific guy. And I love this specific guy, and that's kind of how you justify it. But not everybody's going to be on that, so I can definitely understand it, man. So, yeah, man, I like that, though. I like that. Like I said, shout out to the mocks right there, though, man. And shout out to y'all rocking with me today, man. Let me see, before we get up out of here, what we got. Love. Oh, Damon Brown joined it. Shout out to Damon Brown, man, joining the upper room. Damon Brown, welcome to the upper room. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, man. Definitely good to have you in the upper room, baby. Good to see you again too, man. All right. But yeah, man, like I said, man, this is kind of, you know, thought process though, man, in terms of some of these top 30 vids that we talked about earlier today. you said, man, reacting some of that mock draft stuff with Graham Barton. A lot of people, in terms of Mel Kiper, some of these other higher end NFL analysts are mocking him a lot to us lately, man. So, like I said, definitely start watch more and more on him, man. But like I said, that will do it for today, man. You know, we back in the saddle, man, in terms of the podcast tomorrow. Hopefully y'all enjoy your weekend, stay safe, and enjoy whatever it is that you all are doing, all right? Don't forget to check the website out, arthurmoats.com, man, for them updated mocks. Keep tapping on that new film session with Michael Pruitt, man, just showing his versatility and what he is going to bring to this Steelers offense. And, yeah, until next time, baby, peace.